Hello, this is lesson 313, simple interest. In summary, simple interest is an amount that is loaned out or invested, and you receive a percent of that in payment for loaning the money, or when you invest, a return on your money. So you're trying to make a little bit of money in the investment. That's your interest. Or if you're borrowing money, it's the amount that you're paying to borrow that money from someone. So usually a bank, but it can even be from a private person, or could be on a credit card. Lots of different ways to invest or have to pay interest. So the rate changes, and the government regulates usually the rate with banks. Okay, so we write a formula. I equals PRT. Kind of the easiest way to remember it is I equals PRT. And that stands for interest as a result of a principal amount, which is in blue, times your rate, which is the percentage rate, times the time for how long that loan is going to be outstanding, or how long you're going to invest that money for. So let's do a couple examples of what's simple interest and how it's calculated. So if I invest $600, loan it out to someone, or invest it in a bank, put it in a bank even, and I'm going to earn a 4% interest rate over 4 years. How much money is the interest? What is the interest? So let's try to calculate that. So remember, our formula is I equals PRT. It helps to write it out each time, so you make sure you're getting it in the right order. You're going to put in your $600, and you're going to multiply that by your rate, which is 0.04, times your time, which is 4 years. Okay, so we're calculating the interest on that. Let's start with our 600 times 0.04. Let's calculate those. 600 times 0.04. Show your work when you do it. 0, 0, 24. And then I have 0 as a placeholder. And I know it's confusing sometimes to have too many zeros, so make sure you're counting your places. You move it 2 places. It's a $24 interest so far. But remember, we have to multiply it by our time, which is times 4. So let's take our interest of $24. I'm going to change colors here. Times 4. And we get 16. And carry, you get $96. And that is your interest. Now your total would be paying back the $600 plus the $96 in interest. So a total of $696. That's the interest plus the principal, what you'd be back. But if you're looking at how much interest you earned, it's just the $96. Okay, so it depends what you're looking at. How much you have to pay back, or how much interest you've earned or have to pay back. All right, let's try another example. If the principal is $14,000, so let's say we're borrowing $14,000, we're on that other end. We're not investing, but we're borrowing $14,000. And we're going to multiply that to figure out the interest times our rate, which is 0.05. And this one is only 6 months, so that means 6 out of the 12 months in a year. So be careful with time. It's not 6 years, so it's 6 out of 12. So the time is a little tricky this time. Oops. Let me use a highlighter for you. There you go. All right, so let's do our math. 14,000 times 0.05. Multiply, you get zeros. And 0, and carry a 2. And I get 70. Placeholder, and it's zeros. So it looks like it is $70,000. But no, we move our decimal 2 places, and it's actually $700. So it's really important to be careful where your decimals is, and you can always check with the calculator if you wish. And so then I have to take that 700, and I'm going to multiply it by 0.5. And where did I get that 0.5 is because it's 1/2 of a year, 6 out of 12. So that's where I got a half, or 0.5 as a decimal. Just make sure you're seeing where that came from. Alrighty, so 700 times 0.5, you get a 0, and a 35. Move a decimal one place. Our interest is $350. Now remember, if you're on the part of paying back a loan, you're paying back the whole $14,000 in principal plus $350. Or if it's an investment, you would be earning $350 after just 6 months on a $14,000 investment. Okay, so it depends on which way you want to look at that. Let me highlight that in yellow because that is our interest that we calculated. One more example. Let's try one more, and then if you have questions, bring them to class and we'll talk about interest a little bit more. So here is an example of $1,000. So let me put my interest first. And my principal is $1,000 times 0.1 for our rate. Move your decimal 2 places, remember. And times 2 years. Now, it doesn't matter which way you multiply first, but we want to solve for how much interest we're paying. So 1,000 times 0.1 would be moving my decimal 1 place. And I get $100 times 2. I get $200 in interest. But the total paid back is that $1,000 plus $200 in interest. So it's a total of, excuse me, let me fix that. 1,200 is our total. But if you're just figuring out what your interest is, it's only the $200. All right, so be careful that you look at which way they're asking or which one you're trying to figure out, total being paid back or just the interest. All right, so in summary, our interest equals P times R times T, and that's principal times rate times time. And the only time you have to be careful with time is if the time is not a full year. All right, there's one more problem. This is a challenge problem because the way I wrote this one out is showing that you know your interest and you know your rate and you know your time, how long you're going to borrow the money, but you don't know how much was borrowed. So let's calculate one like that. So remember our formula is I equals P times R times T. And we're going to substitute each one. So I'm going to substitute in my principal. And the principal we don't know. So I'm going to put a P. My interest is $45. My rate is 5%. So remember to put in a 0.05. And the time here is 2 years. So I'm going to start off with multiplying my 0.05 times 2, which is, if you think about it like a nickel times 2, 10, or 0.10. And what happens when you need to figure out the principal, remember, is we have to do our inverse operation. So we're going to divide both sides by 0.1 to isolate the variable. So now we have to do some calculating. And again, we're figuring out our principal. So let's put a capital P. But we're dividing instead of multiplying by 0.1. Move your decimal 1 place. How many times is 1 going to 450? It goes in, 4 and 5. Or you can just move your decimal 1 place if you want to. And 450 divided by 1 is 450. So your total principal was $450 in your original investment or the loan amount. All right, bring your questions to class.